The outbreak of World War I. The First World War didn't just happen. It was the result of decades of political, social, and military tensions. The long fuse of history had burned down, and Europe was about to be plunged into conflict. The shifting landscape of Europe. By the late 1800s, Europe was changing rapidly. Industrialization brought wealth, but also deepened inequality. Nationalism and imperial expansion became the tools of the ruling elites to manage growing social unrest. The rise of Germany. Germany, unified in 1871, rapidly began to build a formidable empire and a navy that threatened the established powers of Britain, France, and Russia. Its growing ambitions sparked tensions across Europe. Militarism and nationalism. As nationalism and militarism surged, a new wave of enthusiasm for war swept through Europe, fueled by sensationalist media, militaristic education, and even popular culture glorifying conflict at every turn. The arms race begins. As Germany's navy grew, Britain responded by expanding its own fleet, including the famous dreadnought battleships. Meanwhile, Austria-Hungary and Russia clashed over influence in the Balkans. The alliance system. By 1914, Europe was divided into two main alliance blocs: the Triple Alliance, consisting of Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy, and the Triple Entente, formed between France, Russia, and the United Kingdom. These alliances were meant to deter war, but they made it far more likely. Sarajevo. The spark that lit the fire. On June 28, 1914, Serb nationalist Gavrilo Princip assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne. This moment of violence set off a chain reaction that would engulf Europe. Austria-Hungary's response. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia for the assassination, and despite some diplomatic miscalculations, sought to escalate the situation. A declaration of war seemed inevitable as the country grew frustrated by the lack of international response. Germany's blank check. Austria-Hungary sought the backing of Germany, which offered full support, regardless of the consequences. With this blank check, Austria felt emboldened to act, even though the potential for a wider war loomed large. The July crisis intensifies. By mid-July 1914, the possibilities seemed endless. Peace, a limited war, a regional conflict, or a world war if Britain became involved. But every decision made in this chaotic moment only brought Europe closer to catastrophe. Austria-Hungary's ultimatum. On July 23rd, Austria-Hungary issued a harsh ultimatum to Serbia, knowing it would be rejected. This provided the pretext for war. Serbia's refusal to allow foreign prosecution of its citizens was the tipping point. Mobilization across Europe. Within days, Russia mobilized in defense of Serbia. Germany, honoring its alliance with Austria-Hungary, began preparations for war. France, bound by its alliance with Russia, quickly followed suit. The machine of war was grinding into motion. Telegrams and tensions. Diplomatic efforts to avoid war grew increasingly desperate. Tsar Nicholas II and Kaiser Wilhelm II exchanged urgent telegrams, but the momentum toward war was unstoppable. The machine of war had already started moving. Schlieffen Plan and mobilization. Germany's war plan, the Schlieffen Plan, called for a rapid invasion of France while Russia mobilized. Both sides preparing for war, the question was no longer if, but when. Final countdown. The world teetered on the edge of war. Within days, the decision was made. Germany declared war on Russia, followed by France, and Britain joined the conflict after Germany invaded Belgium. World War I had begun. Legacy of 1914. The world would never be the same. The war, which started with a single assassination, would alter the course of history. The long fuse had burned down, and Europe was plunged into a war that would shape the future. The road to World War II. The aftermath of the First World War laid the groundwork for future conflict. The Versailles Treaty, designed to punish Germany, did little to bring peace. In just 21 years, Europe would find itself at war again. Historical debates and perspectives. Who was truly to blame for the war? Historians continue to debate the causes, with some pointing to alliances, others to individual leaders, and still others to the cultural and political mindsets of the time. The Fischer thesis. German historian Fritz Fischer challenged traditional views, arguing that Germany's military elite had long harbored aggressive ambitions. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand was used as a pretext for war, according to Fischer. Some historians, like Sean McMeekin, argue that Russia's rapid mobilization played a pivotal role in turning a regional conflict into a continental one. Others, like Niall Ferguson, point to Britain's initial hesitation as a critical factor in the escalation. Christopher Clark's sleepwalker theory. According to historian Christopher Clark, Europe's descent into war was largely unintended. A series of miscalculations and a pervasive sense of insecurity led to a war that no one wanted, yet everyone was drawn into. The question of inevitable war. Could the war have been avoided? Some argue that the complex alliances and military strategies made war unavoidable, while others believe that with different decisions at key moments, the war could have been prevented. The culture of militarism. James Joll highlights how the culture of militarism in 1914 saw war as a tool of national greatness, not a last resort. In this climate, military leaders had as much influence as politicians, and decisions were made quickly without room for diplomacy. The aftermath of the road to WA2. The First World War ended in 1918, but its consequences would echo through history. The war's aftermath, combined with the punitive terms of the Versailles Treaty, set the stage for another devastating conflict just 2 decades later. Legacy of the war. The scars of the First World War would continue to shape the world for decades. It was a conflict that reshaped Europe and left a legacy that would contribute to the outbreak of the Second World War. Final reflections. The story of World War I is not just about dates and events. It's a reflection of human decision-making and the tragic consequences of a world that valued military success above all else. The lessons of 1914 still resonate today.